Hello, and welcome back to my reaction series of Arcane. I'm pretty excited to jump right in because I really enjoyed everything that episode 2 set up, but I just need to get a couple of things out of the way. The first is to do with naming. I've been told since I recorded my first two reactions for the first two episodes that what I've been referring to as topside, in comparison to the underside or the undersiders, is called Piltover, and that name does ring a bell. I do remember hearing it. I guess I just didn't realize exactly what they were referring to. So I'll do my best to refer to Topside as Piltover. And secondly, I've been told that the antagonist with the glowing eye, his name is Silko. And I've been told that isn't a spoiler or anything. I just must have missed it. So I'll do my best to refer to him as Silko as well. And one thing that I noticed while I was doing the editing for the first episode is I referred to the character of Vander as being reminiscent of Thor's from Vinland Saga, and I gave some reasons for that. But something that was very obvious that escaped my attention during my watch was that in the first scene, we see him picking up Violet, picking up Powder, and taking them away from the Enforcers. And something that I didn't realize is that in the midst of all that, he takes his gauntlets and sort of drops them in a symbolic way of saying, I'm done with this. I'm done with conflict. I'm done with war. All of that. And that is super reminiscent of, in the first episode of Vinland Saga, of Thor's, in the midst of this huge conflict on the water, stabbing someone and then looking at the knife and then just throwing it away and just being totally done with it. So that's a very clear parallel, another one alluding to him being reminiscent of Thor's that I really just didn't notice for some reason, but I figured I'd mention it. Anyways, I think that's about all that I had to talk about. Without further ado, let's get into episode 3. Very excited. So one thing I was wondering about at the end of last episode in the discussion was what exactly Violet's end game is, because last we saw of her, she was seemingly turning herself in. So I'm interested to see how that'll develop. I guess we'll see.
Ever wonder what it's like to drown?
Silko.
There's peace in water, like it's holding you, whispering in low tones to let it in.
The voice work is spectacular again.
Every problem in the world will fade away. But then there's this thing in your head, and it's raging to fight, to survive.
That's what led to his injury.
You could pass a lifetime without ever facing a choice like that. But it changes you forever.
Wow.
For that, I
thank you.
Old friend.
Oh, that is fantastic work for Silko, just in a short 2-minute scene. God damn. Right. Let's see what she's doing. Turning herself in?
Vander?
Of course. They
you...
baited me.
This is the only way to protect the others.
Vander!
So it looks like she was turning herself in.
Don't ever lose it, no matter how the world tries to break you.
What are you...
And he's taking her place.
No!
Vander always had something like this in store for him.
I'm not putting you away, Vander.
The council needs its pound of flesh.
Without you down here, it all falls apart.
I can't do this!
You won't be coming back for a long time.
It's all gonna fall apart.
It's the only way.
Vi alone wouldn't have been enough. This is rough for Violet.
What's happening?
Holy shit. Oh shit.
Oh, the devil.
There goes their deal. Silko.
Bento, stay back!
You never did know when to walk away.
Wait!
So is this the thug?
Stubborn to the end.
Yeah.
Deals changed.
Blood money. Oh, the red outline? Or the red filter because of the blood? That's amazing. Okay. So they're taking him hostage. I was wondering about that. And this Marcus guy. Oh, what a shot. That is gonna change her.
It works.
Man, I was so excited for seeing this partnership, and all I can think about is the scene we just saw.
Which is being destroyed tomorrow.
That research is everything. My whole life. No. You heard the council. If we're wrong,
Better be right, then.
why would you risk this?
Do you think it was my life's ambition to be an assistant? Scientists seek discoveries, ways to make the world a better place. This Hextech dream of yours has the potential to do that.
I like Victor.
Our Hextech dream.
Oh, I love it. What a partnership.
But so they
And he was like his caretaker. At least from what I could tell.
they took him.
Oh. Is he back to normal? So they're mass producing this serum.
It's a little crude, I'll admit. The base violence necessary for change.
Base
Topside won't
violence.
listen to anything else.
Oh, so that's what it's for. Force,
Even
might.
with your monsters, you won't win a war against Piltover.
A war,
I
yeah.
don't have to. I just need to scale them.
For what? Pride?
For respect. Opportunity. Everything they've denied us. We shared a vision, Vander. A dream of freedom. I trusted you. And you betrayed me.
That was Vander. Holy shit.
I've never forgiven myself. You are my brother.
Oh, I hated you for what you'd done. But as time passed, so did my hate. And I was left with an understanding. The only way to defeat a superior enemy is to stop at nothing. To become what they fear. I hated you, but you kept my respect until you made peace with them. Played lapdog after everything we suffered.
Oh, I don't like that.
I had no choice.
What is that for?
Perhaps. Shimmer, we have the power. We can finally realize our dream, brother.
In fighting Topside, you'd sacrifice everything that we are.
You die for the cause, but you won't fight for one.
I'm just not that man anymore.
Willing to risk
Medardo.
for your endeavor. That's quite the conviction.
The counselor.
Wait a minute, it
What a
isn't my
surprise.
bedroom.
See you. Please. We can
Victor's
prove
funny.
it works.
Heimerdinger will recognize the potential.
It scares him. It scares them all.
What about you?
I recognize that any worthwhile venture involves risk.
She's interested.
Please. Just give us a chance.
One night, gentlemen. Impress me, or I'd suggest you pack your bags.
Oh, Counselor Medardo, you nearly scared me to death.
Another late night.
She's
The work
crafty.
just doesn't end.
Interesting look from Victor there.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah.
Hey,
Poor girl.
Vander's. They took Vander.
Who took Vander?
I don't know, but I need to help him.
We're going with you.
I need you to sit this one out, Powder. I know what I said.
I want to fight.
That's
I
tough.
Can help.
You're not ready. I can't lose you.
Up until this point, she's been allowing them to come with them, but this is just a step
Take
too
this
far.
and run. Wherever you are, light it up, and I'll find you. I promise.
Poor girl. Both of them. Poor sisters. Violet is taking on far too much.
Time to crank it.
Are you sure you know what you're doing?
Oh shit. Oh wow, what? Holy shit. Oh my goodness.
I can help them.
She is far more fragile than I actually thought she was. Maybe I was just overlooking a huge aspect of her character.
Let's get Vander and get out.
That was shocking.
All right, here we go.
Incredible. Fine. What are you doing here?
We're breaking you out.
Oh, God. You have to get out. Now.
Welcome. You have my congratulations. But I'm afraid this will be a very short reunion.
There's no way in hell this goes well.
Have you heard the rumor?
You don't have to do this.
Yes, I do.
She looks determined, at least. Okay, Violet. It just moves on.
You can do this.
We're gonna get you out.
The audio direction is knocking it out of the park right now. And here's the reverse from that first confrontation. Holy shit. This is so good.
Stop this lunacy! They're almost through. No pressure.
That sounds like pressure!
They did... I guess they did it.
You've actually done it. But just because it can be done doesn't mean this is not what Piltover's future looks like, my dear boys.
That's for the council to decide. Perhaps it's time for the era of magic.
Hextech. For the era of Hextech.
A magic revolution. It's gonna work. It's gonna work. There's no way it doesn't work. Holy shit! Oh my god! Oh my god, the rabbit! Oh, she's smiling! That is so twisted! No! Oh no! Holy shit, that was not what I was expecting at all! I can't believe they went there. Oh, this is so messed up. Oh, Powder.
Kill them.
Oh yeah, he doesn't give a shit anymore. This is phenomenal, but honestly I can't stop thinking about Powder's face. That was so haunting. She had thought she had done the right thing. Oh, gloves are off. What the hell? This is so good. What effect is this gonna have on her?
I knew you still had it in you.
Uh-oh. I don't know about that, Vander. I have no words. What the hell is happening? Did it. Souped up Vander? No chance, buddy.
Silko!
He's gonna go back. Of course he's gonna go back. That's who he is. That split-second choice tells you exactly who Vander is. Even poisoned by this.
Take care of Powder.
It worked! Did you see me? My monkey bomb finally worked!
Oh, shit. This is so messed up. Oh my god.
I was saving you.
Oh man.
I wanted to help. I only wanted to help. Please, please.
I told you to stay away!
Oh, fuck. Come on.
Why did you leave me?
Because you're a jinx! Do you hear me?
No.
This is so awful. Silhouetted against the fire. Oh, these poor girls.
I'll kill you if he hears you. Come on, let's go.
Hello, little girl.
Is he gonna take her in?
Where's your sister?
She left me. She is not my sister anymore.
It's okay.
Oh my god.
We'll show them. We will show them all.
Oh, what the This is so incredible. That was so good. I did not see it going that way at all. I have no idea if that reaction was even coherent. I really hope so. That was insane drama. Holy. So, what can you really say after an episode like that? I'm pretty emotionally exhausted. I feel drained after having seen that, so I hope I can put together some sort of decent discussion here. And I hope that the reaction was semi-coherent, but I have a feeling it won't be. That was an amazing episode. That was insanely presented. The writing just completely floored me. I didn't see 90% of that coming. And maybe I should have, but on the other hand, I don't know. Maybe it's just really well done, shocking drama. It's a bit difficult for me to tell at the moment, but I'm going to try to dissect it. Just starting off to sum things up, the body count this episode was pretty monumental. We had Grayson in the beginning. We had the shopkeep, I forget his name, the one who was looking after Echo, who was old friends with Vander, seemingly, and seems to know Silko as well. So that's 2. Milo, Clagger, those 2 really shocked me. And then Vander. Now, Vander dying is probably the least surprising thing in the episode because he just seemed like someone who, from the start, was not going to be long for this story. He seemed to be someone who needed to go away for the fireworks to start. He was what was holding this status quo together. And, well, Silko wants a war, or at least the threat of a war, to allow them to rise up and at least make themselves known to Piltover, put them on equal standing, and I think he has more in mind than that. But for all of that to happen, which was clearly what the plot has been hinting at from the beginning, Vander had to go. He was holding it together. He was holding this, anxious but stable peace. And so he really needed to go for that reason. Also, he's just the classic sort of mentor character whose death would stimulate the likes of Violet, and whose death would kickstart the plot in proper. This felt like a prologue, like if we're continuing the Vinland Saga reference, this felt like the prologue arc to Arcane. And Vander's death, I think, signified that. But there are also other specific character moments that indicated that as well, and I'm going to get into that. So I think I should just... Well, actually, before I start from the beginning of the events, let me just say that the audio-visual directing was spectacular. The whole second half of this episode had me on the edge of my seat. I could hardly breathe. It was just brilliantly boiled, ramping tension, and then just pure shock after shock after shock. It was so well presented. I just have to say that and get that out of the way. It was brilliant. So if we start from the beginning, we have, before the opening, we have this monologue from Silko, where he's talking about the feeling of drowning and being in the water, and how once you reach a certain point, it's comforting. The concept of death itself is comforting, and I think that theme is much more all-encompassing than that. I think that speaks of this comforting status quo. It's not really comforting to a lot of those involved, but Silko sees it as a lazy indolence, as this very resting on your laurels, settling for less sort of comfort that Vander is establishing through his under the table deals. And so I think that when Silko is talking about the comfort that the water brings, that drowning brings, he's also talking about what Vander has become involved with, what he's sort of tainted the Undercity with, this sort of indolence, like I said. I think there's a parallel there. Anyways, the monologue continues, and it's beautifully voice acted, beautifully written. And he says, but then something rises in you, this survival instinct, this will to fight. And once that gets hold, that's the sort of thing that helps you see clearest who you are and what you need to do to achieve what you want, to achieve what you deserve in this world. That's a lot of what I took from it. And the most interesting thing to me was that he thanked the man who, in this past circumstance, drowned him, was trying to kill him, it seemed like. He thanked him for helping him realize how to channel his fury and rage and will to fight and need to survive into something productive. And we of course now know that person was Vander, who they regarded each other as brothers, best friends. I don't know if we're going to get more information about what exactly went down between the two for Vander to have to do this. And I think it's clear that this occurred during that war in the beginning of episode 1. They were in water, but you could see all this destruction and all these fires. I think that happened at the same time. Hopefully the show will correct me if I'm wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure. So there was some sort of conflict between Vander and Silko. And judging what we know about both of these characters, I would imagine that it's because Vander, in the midst of this destruction, he has already said he realized that what he had done was not the right path, that war was not the right thing to do for him or his loved ones or anyone from the Undercity. And so we know Silko's motivations now. I can only assume they were similar back then. So I think they were in conflict because they had opposing ideas of how to combat this situation, how to face Piltover. I think that maybe initially they both agreed that they had to take it by force, that they had to fight their way to the top, that they would have to create just so much noise and force their way through to even be acknowledged at all, to live the life that they want. Maybe they both agreed with this at first, but as it went on, Vander changed his mind, and it seemed like Silko did not want to relent at all, and I think that's what may have led to this conflict. That's what I'm getting from it. Could be wrong, but it's that element of him being grateful for Vander for having made him realize that he just needs the conviction to take whatever he wants and do whatever he has to do to take it. It's simple if you put things that way. And so it was a sort of enlightenment that he wouldn't have been able to realize without being tempted by the comforts of those waters. It was an amazing opening scene that shed so much light on Silko, substantiated him a ton. And now that we know that that was Vander, substantiates Vander as well. Now, that happens. we have the opening, and then we go straight to Violet we now know that she was going to turn herself in. Vander instead takes the fall for her, locks her up, brilliant visual direction, the filter of the blood across the window, filtering all that blood down onto Violet, bathing her in red, violence in blood. It was just super good. And so we have Silko, who uses his new mutant pet, to enact an attack on Vander, or to take him hostage. So I think the purpose of this seemed to be pretty intentional. There were 4 people in this party. There was Marcus, the younger upstart enforcer. There was Grayson, the older woman who had the deals going on with Vander. There was Vander, of course, and there was the shopkeep. Interestingly, Grayson is the only one who was killed initially. And so I don't think that was a coincidence. Okay, he wanted to take Vander hostage. He was colluding with Marcus, to some extent. So he himself was doing these under-the-table deals with someone who had their own little bit of influence in Piltover. So, obviously, he's not going to want to kill Marcus, because Marcus is his in to Piltover. He's valuable. He didn't seem to want to kill the shopkeep initially, because there was just probably no need. I'm not sure. But he also said something about the shopkeep's old habits. Like, you were never able to control your anger, old friend, or something like that. So they were old friends too, not just him and Vander, him and this shopkeep. So I think there must have been some emotional connection there. Maybe long forgotten, because he didn't seem to care much when he was killed, but enough for him to not want to kill him at first. And I don't know, I find that interesting. The only person he kills was Grayson, who maybe he might have been able to find out that she was essentially the stem, the root of this status quo, her and Vander. Just adding something in post here to phrase something a bit better than I did in the discussion. So Silko didn't want to kill Vander. That was pretty obvious. He wanted to take him hostage. He wanted to ultimately convince him to join his side, but then when Vander completely refused, he left him as bait. The thing I was getting to here is that it seems like Silko intentionally tried to only kill Grayson, initially. Not Benzo. The shopkeep's name is Benzo, I know that now. Which I was trying to get to the point that this means that Silko... We had known this already, but it's another demonstrator of the fact that Silko is not just mindlessly doing these things. He has a genuine plan. He isn't out for revenge on all the people that may be of use to him. He's pragmatic. He's intelligent enough to, not go completely haywire on this. He wants to fight back, but he's not doing it brainlessly. That's just the sort of thing I was trying to get at here. And as evidenced by the fact that this wild beast, Deckard, I know the thug's name now as well, Mutant Shimmer Deckard, obviously had no ability to hold back and think for himself to, just kill this one person and leave everyone else. He was under orders. He had no... If Silko had not given him orders, he would have tried to kill all 4 of them. I think that's clear. So I think that's just an interesting little tidbit to add to Silko. And just thought I would mention that. Also, from this point on in the discussion, I'll be referring to the serum as what it is, which is Shimmer. He still has some sort of emotional connection to him, so he was not all far gone in his eyes. That much is clear. But Grayson was a problem. She was a big part of the reason that this huge headache was there in the first place. She represented Piltover's ability to collude with them in a way that would lead to a relationship between the two sides that Silko does not want. So she had to go. So I don't think it was just a wild attack where she just died by coincidence and the other 3 lived by coincidence. I think that was very intentional. And then only when the shopkeep attacked him did he die as well. Maybe. Just a theory. But so Vander gets taken away. Echo witnessed the whole thing. That's going to have a huge, huge impact on him, no doubt. Vi was, of course, extremely impacted by that, which caused her to want to go right away and rescue him. And so I think now is actually a good time to take a break from that side of the episode, because throughout the whole thing there was this underlying plot of Jace and Victor conducting these experiments in secret without Heimerdinger noticing. with the help of Medarda. And that was almost an afterthought to this whole episode. As much as I was excited to seeing them work together, and as much as it was great to see their interactions and see them make this huge discovery, it was not the focus of this episode at all. So I think I'm just going to talk about that point now. So there's some great banter between the two. You can just tell that they're kindred spirits. They understand each other extremely well. Victor is a really lovable guy, at least at this point. He understands Jace's way of thinking, his curious intellectual mind, his focus on discovery, and sees all the value in it and agrees with him, and he himself has ambitions beyond just being this assistant to Heimerdinger. And so that's why he wants to be his partner. He wants to create this revolution that he thinks that Jace can help bring about. And I think that's really great. They work so well together. So yeah, they sneak in to get the materials, to get the notes, and Medarda helps them. Now, Medarda's role in this was interesting because it just kind of furthers what I thought about her in the first place. She's very astute. She's very pragmatic. She took an interest in Jace. She didn't necessarily shoot down the things he was saying genuinely. She might say that in front of her colleagues because she has to save face and she has to posture and political machinations and all that. But I definitely don't think that in episode 2, I didn't get the impression that she thought it was totally worthless. I just think that she didn't feel as if she would be adequately supported if she supported him. But now she sees a bit of promise there with Victor helping him out, maybe. So she helps them on their little excursion. And one more thing that's important about her character is that, again, it's mentioned in episode 2, she may have a foremost prominent seat on the council. She may be one of the most important people in Piltover, but to her family, she is bottom of the rung. She's bottom of the totem pole. And so she herself wants some sort of discovery. She wants some sort of way to make a name for herself. And I think becoming a part of this operation could be a way to achieving that. And I think she sees that. And so getting in Victor and Jace's good books would be beneficial for her. And I think that's what she does. She's very crafty. She's really interesting. I'm really glad. I love seeing these sort of political maneuvering characters in shows and settings like this. It's really interesting. So anyways, after a bit of trouble, after some good humor, they eventually break into Heimerdinger's lab. I think that was Heimerdinger's lab. And they get access to Jace's, the crystals. They were conducting some sort of experiment. I don't know what the hell was going on there. To be completely honest with you, I don't know what they were doing. But in the end, they were successful. There was some huge flash of light. There was some electricity. And I think the defining point, the most important thing about these scenes is that they have made a breakthrough. They have discovered a way to turn magic into some sort of resource. They have discovered a way to make this arcane element to be the cornerstone of society. It's going to be some sort of industrial revolution, from what they've said. They're going to change the world, and I think they're going to become powerful men because of that. Maybe Medarda as well. So it's huge. And something I immediately noticed is Heimerdinger. You can see the scientist side of him and the cautionary side of him as well. Because he comes in and he sees all these lights and that they've made this breakthrough, and his immediate reaction is shock and awe, and he was impressed. He admired it. He said, "I can't believe you've done this." And then the caution crept in, the memories of what this magic had done to societies past that he had witnessed. And then he says, "This isn't the way forward. This isn't the future." And then Medarda comes in and says, "That's for the council to decide." So I think the implication there is that Heimerdinger is slowly losing his power in terms of governing the way this world will work. This cautionary world full of red tape that does not take magic into account, I have a feeling that's not going to be the case much longer. Not with this discovery. Not with Medarda and her influence and power, and I have a feeling she must be a great player in the political game. She's probably very persuasive, and Victor's got his own influence, and the results speak for themselves. I think that's just a perfect storm to kickstart this new era of society. And I don't think that Heimerdinger, I don't think that he alone is going to be enough to stop it as much as he wants to. Again, back to that theme of the dual-edged nature of discovery. There is wonder and there's progress, and there is belief in a more prosperous future. And that is the core of what Victor and Jace are standing for. Medarda, I think, might be a bit more cynical. She might be a bit more self-serving. I'm not sure exactly. But that's the heart of what they're doing. Hope for a better future. Hope to make a name for themselves as well. Victor made that quite clear. But I think it comes from a place of genuine heart as well. But they're not thinking of what this could lead to. Of what this in the wrong hands could lead to. And that is what Heimerdinger keeps bringing up. And that is what keeps getting shot down. That is clearly going to play a part later on, and I'm really interested to see where it goes in this new Hextech revolution. Looking forward to it. The societal world building continues to be really interesting. This episode didn't do as much with it as episode 2, but it progressed things pretty nicely. So now back to the, I guess, real plot, or main plot of this episode, and Violet returns back to the last drop, I think the bar is called, back to Milo, back to Claggor, back to Powder. Obviously, she's completely in shock and only driven by this primal instinct to save the man she loves, her father figure, Vander. And so that's all that's on her mind. And so they're getting ready to head out, but she can't take Powder with her because given what she's seen, she just knows Powder is not ready for that sort of thing. She didn't want to infantilize her up until now, and I think that's clear by the way that she took her on the first mission and talked about her own form of strength in previous episodes. She wants to prop her up. She wants her to believe in herself, and I genuinely think that she believes in Powder. But this is just too much. The monster she saw is just too much. She doesn't want Powder anywhere near that. And so her sisterly love for her overpowers her desire to make her feel as if she is capable of the things she probably isn't capable of just yet. And that's very understandable, but it's still a difficult situation because it's a huge blow to Powder's pride, to Powder's sense of self-worth, how she can contribute. And it was a much bigger blow to that than I had ever imagined because her reaction to it, I figured she might be crying, I figured she might be sad. She was gasping for air. She was frothing at the lips, like there was saliva, tears, snot, everything coming out of every single orifice in her face. She was going crazy, just completely losing it because Violet didn't trust her on this mission, because Violet wanted to keep her safe. And I was in total shock at that. I wasn't expecting that at all. She was so fragile mentally, and I hadn't really clocked that until this point, when they showed it right in front of my face. I didn't see that at all. I didn't realize that that was where her mentality was, that it was so fragile that one little snap and it would completely break. She just loses herself in emotion and devastation here at the thought of not being useful. I don't know what exactly must have brought that about, but throughout her childhood, there must have been this constant urge to prove herself and these constant indications that she just wasn't maybe good enough, that she wasn't able to be as useful to Vi as she wishes she was. And I think taunts from Milo, probably taunts from other people as well, exacerbated that. And so she seemed pretty psychologically healthy when everything's going well, when Violet is believing in her. As long as she has her sister's faith, I think she's good. The minute she loses it in her eyes, and Vi didn't really say that she didn't have her faith, she just said that she wasn't ready, and there's no shame in that. Powder is a little kid. How could she ever be ready for something, for an occasion like this? But of course she doesn't see it that way. She sees it as Vi not trusting her. She sees it as herself not being able to contribute. She sees it as her being weak, and she can't stand that. And so her natural solution to that was to use those crystals as a weapon for their side. She had seen the destruction it caused in their earlier mission, and so she knows that it's potent. And so she went out after them. And at this point, I wasn't really sure if this would be a good or bad thing. I genuinely thought that there was as much of a chance of Powder saving the day as there was of her screwing it up. And, of course, with the possibility of her screwing it up, I did not see it leading to any of this. I did not see it becoming this bad. But nonetheless, yeah, it could have gone either way for me. I wasn't really sure. Violet and the others step into their trap. Silko gets them. Violet's fighting them off. Milo and Clagger are doing their best. Clagger's trying to secure an escape route through these little crevices in the wall. Milo is trying to pick the locks. And there's a couple of very touching moments where it shows their bonds between them and Vander and the trust between them, where Vander says, "You can do this, just calm down," to Milo. And Milo does calm down, and he's able to undo the locks. He's able to succeed in that. And there's also a nice moment with Clagger where he said, "Yeah, we're going to get you out." Completely confident. And I thought those were very nice moments. Little did I know that those would be their last moments, their lasting impression on the story. I still can't believe it. I said this multiple times throughout the reaction of the last 10-15 minutes or so. But when Violet's contraption finally worked, when those crystals completely wreaked havoc and literally kills her friends, badly injured her sister, badly injured her father figure, she completely thought she had done the right thing. Her smiling as she falls down, slow motion, in the midst of this hellfire, in the midst of so much destruction, thinking that she finally proved herself to be useful, to be an asset, to be worthy of being Violet's sister. I think that might be the first time in her life she ever felt as if she was a worthy person. I think it was the first time she ever felt useful. And that's what that smile is. Little does she know the terror that she just unleashed by doing that huge mistake. It was so haunting. That is the image that sticks out in my mind the most in this episode, and there were a lot of images that stuck out the most in this episode. That was haunting. This show is going to have to do well to supply me with moments that are as powerful as that. I can't see there being many more that are more powerful than that. It was just a beautiful moment of contrast. It was so twisted. She was so proud, and she had just killed her friends and sent the Undercity into the place she called home. Effectively, she had just destroyed it. Unbelievable. Anyways, I did mention that Violet was fighting them. She kicked ass. That was great. That might be a hint towards maybe her combat ability in the future. I'm not sure. Because one thing that I didn't mention is that in the ensuing time between my reactions from episode 2 to episode 3, I did learn that there was a time skip, unfortunately. I did learn a bit of a spoiler. And I think that this is a natural place for a time skip. So I think Violet putting on those gauntlets and fighting off those guys might be a hint towards her future combat ability. She was already punching before, but maybe this is just a hint to how powerful she'd eventually become. So she did really well. She did great. But she can only do so much, right? And then Vander had to sacrifice himself, essentially, to fight them off. He's taken down by the mutant, and then Silko stabs him. And it's a very conflicting moment. I think it's clear that Silko didn't want it to be this way. I think there's regret there, but I think there's also pride in what he was doing. Something that Silko said to Vander when he was holding him captive was that more than anything, why he's doing the things he's doing isn't for power. Power is a means to an end. It isn't for pride. He shrugged off those suggestions. He said that he was doing this for respect. For Silko, the most important thing is for him and his people, it seems like, and his city to be respected. In his eyes, Vander completely went down a path that just threw their respect in the dirt. There was no respect. There was no independence or nothing to be proud of, even though I just said he doesn't care much for pride. You get my meaning. There was no respect to be found from Vander's path, in his opinion. And so that's why he does the things he does. He mentioned that this army of mutants that he's going to make, which that's their purpose now, they're being used to be a force to scare the topsiders, scare Piltover into submission. Even if you can't win a war, it'll be enough of a force to do that, and to make them take notice, and to respect them. And I think the key sentence there was that this episode's title is a base violence necessary for change. And that is what Silko said the Shimmer chemical serum was. It was a means to an end. The power he would grasp through force via this Shimmer army that he's trying to create, that is a means to an end, and that end to him is respect. And I find that very interesting. I wonder if we're going to get a little bit more of his backstory to see why he is so fixated on respect. But at the same time, I don't think we need that necessarily. We've learned enough about the Undercity to understand why someone from there would want respect. Why, just as much as someone like Vander would value home and hearth and the people he loves and their safety over everything else, over his own self-respect in the way Silko thinks of it, over his own pride. Just as understandable as that is, you can also understand why someone like Silko would come about from this sort of situation. Why there are all these divisions, why there are all these factions. So I don't think it's necessary. Would be cool, though. And so yeah, respect. That is Silko's prime motive. So then he stabs Vander. It seems like he's dead, but then he falls into a pile of Shimmer. And for a brief second, I thought Vander was going to take the Shimmer and completely lose himself. And maybe, in my worst nightmare scenario, become some sort of pet of Silko's. Oh god, the things that flash through my mind. Maybe his first and foremost, his most important soldier. I don't know. That would have been horrible. So I was kind of dreading him taking it, but no. I should have known Vander's will is far stronger than I initially assumed in that moment. He was able to keep his mind under that sort of influence, and a beautiful moment where we see, okay, so he punches the thug, he just gets rid of him, he's yeeted out of there, no competition whatsoever, as we would have expected. And so, in this blazing inferno, he has a choice. He sees his foster daughter, smoke inhalation, coughing, close to being burnt alive, close to dying. And on the other hand, he sees someone who, at this point, has clearly become a source of his rage, a source of his potential revenge, if he wanted to go that way. But does he give in to that hatred? Does he give in to the violence and war? No, he doesn't. Of course he doesn't. Even under that influence that unleashes the monster within, Vander was able to stay human. It's a hugely admirable thing he did by saving Violet, because we aren't really shown the specific biological effects of Shimmer. But I think what's clear is that it causes you to be much more base, much more primal, more animalistic, and instinctual. And in that moment, what would have been Vander's instinct towards Silko, his feelings towards Silko, those primal feelings that he would then have to stifle? It would be hate, it would be rage, it would be violence. The violence that he himself has learned to stifle eventually, as the wave of broader thinking, broader awareness comes in. And he was able to maintain that in his most basest, animalistic, monstrous state. That just shows you how deeply rooted his philosophy was, and how powerful of a man he truly was, not just physically. And so having saved Violet, Vander is lying on the ground dying, and his last words, the last thing he says to Violet, is "Take care of Powder." And holy shit, that stings, given what happened right after that. Take care of Powder. This whole experience is going to have a huge harrowing effect on Violet. I can't imagine that it'll be positive in any way, shape, or form. I can't imagine that her desire to be out of this shadow that was established in the first 2 episodes is going to be suppressed in any way. I think it's just going to grow, and I think it may become much more monstrous. That seems a pretty plausible trajectory. Then again, we don't know exactly what happens with her, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So the second most horrifying moment of the episode for me, as she's crying, looking at Vander's body, Powder comes up behind her, so proud, so happy about finally being useful, finally contributing to the cause, not knowing what she did. Like I said, this was essentially probably the first time she felt useful in her life, the first time she felt validated, the first time she maybe loved herself. And so she's built up, she's hyped up in this moment, she's so happy because she's finally a person she can be proud of. And then that completely shatters. Completely shatters. And it's much worse having been given the hope that you're finally the person or a semblance of the person you tried to be than never having been that person in the first place. And not only does she go through all that, she explicitly sees that she is the cause of her two friends and her father figure dying. She is the cause of something that will no doubt throw the entire Undercity into chaos, her entire home into chaos. Of course, she just completely breaks down. It makes her earlier breakdown seem like absolutely nothing. Her mentality is totally shattered at this point, and you just feel so bad for her. You just feel so sympathetic for her, and you feel so bad for Violet too, because my God, her punching her, hitting her sister, obviously it's a horrible thing to do. Obviously it's uncalled for. A young girl who's had to grow up so fast with so much responsibility on her shoulders, having seen everything she loved crash to the ground, except the one person who was the most important thing in her life, and then realizing that that person is what caused everything else to crash down. Of course, you can blame her for doing that. It's not something she should have done, and she immediately regretted it, because it's a horrible thing to do. But it's so human, right? It's so human. All she was in that moment was rage and regret, and a bit of hate at her sister, I'm sure, and loss, and grief. And some horrible things can happen when humans are consumed by those sorts of things. So she punches her and has to be separated. She can't look at her. And then gets taken in by Marcus. Marcus takes her. And I get the feeling that the sisters will be separated from each other for a long time. Again, I think this is an indicator of a time skip, after which they won't have seen each other for a while. Violet's being taken in by the Enforcers, and on the complete opposite side, we have Silko taking in Powder. That is something I wouldn't have seen coming in a million years. That is crazy to me. But it makes total sense. Silko is super intelligent, super resourceful, with genuine emotional ties to the underground, genuine ties to this place, had genuine care for Vander. And so I think it makes sense that, I was shocked when it happened, but I think it makes sense that he would take Powder in. He's not heartless. Not at all. I think he looks at her, and maybe I'm being misled. Maybe he's just so good at manipulating that he's got me too. But I thought I felt like there was maybe a modicum, a tiny hint of concern in his eyes. He's such an interesting character. He's so gray, very dark gray, but undoubtedly a shade of gray, that I don't think that he purely wants to use her as a resource, as a weapon, as a tool. I think the majority of his attitude towards her, the majority of him is thinking, I can use her for something. But I think a small part of him also genuinely cares. Maybe I'll easily be proven wrong later down the line. I'm not sure. But my God, her hugging him hugging her back, may be able to heal the hurt that each of them are feeling. I'm not sure. We'll see how it goes, but that one shot of Silko saying that we'll show them all, I think he definitely feels what she's feeling. That hate towards her sister, because she literally says, I have no sister anymore. And that triggers something in his mind, I think. Not only I can use her, but maybe a parallel to what he felt when Vander, in his eyes, betrayed him. Powder had just seen what it was in her eyes, a betrayal. Violet just completely leaving her out to dry. And to Vander, he is the quintessential example of someone who was betrayed by a sibling figure. So I think he sees himself in her, and I think he sympathizes as a result of that. And he says, we'll show them. We oppressed younger siblings. I don't know if he's younger, but we oppressed siblings. We forgotten siblings. Tossed aside. We'll make all the people who dared to disrespect us regret it. That's what I got from that. And Powder's response was pure affirmation of that through that insane hatred we see in her eyes. That look, holy shit. That's nearly as haunting as her smiling, as everything she loves gets burned to the ground. I've been talking for a long time. This episode was insanely good. Definitely the best one so far. Each episode's just been better than the last, by my reckoning. And so I think I want to just end with one thing. Like I mentioned, the title for this episode is The Base Violence Necessary for Change, and that obviously refers to what Silko said in a literal sense about Shimmer, and him needing to use this power as a means to an end. The base violence necessary for change, that change being respect for his brethren, for him. But I also think that the base violence necessary for change could now be hinting at a bunch of things. When it comes to change from a different sort of point of view, something that's very not directly related to this at all, but in terms of the theme of change, we're getting a societal revolution from the side of Jace, Victor, Medarda, Heimerdinger. And so is this change going to be violent? It's clearly going to be drastic. It's going to lead to big changes. Is it going to be for the better? Is it going to be violent? Is it going to be a base violence? Is it going to lead to a base violence? Is this change going to lead to a base violence? Which is sort of the reverse of this. The base violence necessary for change. Just a, I guess, alternate interpretation of that. But then I look at what happened to Violet's psychology. This base violence that occurred to her loved ones. That will undoubtedly change her. So I think it refers directly to Violet. This base violence that Violet then acted out on her sister, Powder, I think that will cause change. I think that punch is going to lead to a lot of ramifications. If she had just taken Powder in at that moment, if she had comforted her, then it would have all been different. But at the same time, how can you expect Violet to have done that in that situation? She's a human being, so this was inevitable, I think. And yet, so her act of hitting her sister, I think it'll lead to a violent change in Powder. That look in her eye, I can only imagine what this will lead to. And I just think back to Vander's final words to Violet. Take care of Powder. There are so many layers to this. This was so good. I need to stop talking. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. Thank you very much for joining me for this awesome episode. 6 left. I have no idea where it's going to go from here. I can probably predict some things, but I'm just ready to see it all play out. And I'm very excited. Many thanks again for joining me, and I'll hopefully see you for the next one.